Morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out to join us on this webinar today. We'll give it a couple of minutes, just let some of the other participants join, and we'll make a start. Thank you. Right, hello there. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We have a series of webinars that we try to put together for our customers to try and help them kind of navigate through this crisis that we're in at the moment. So we're starting on, the first one is bringing your workspace home. It's a two-part webinar series that we've put together to help customers with business continuity planning. And I'm joined today by a panel of speakers. So my name is Terry Chana. I'm the Solutions Director for Workspace at XMA. Joining me on the panel today, I have my counterpart, Jen Norman, who is the Solutions Director for our infrastructure part of the business. And our special guest is Linnea Reidlinger, who is a solutions architect from EEC, and EEC are one of our preferred partners for Citrix solutions. I've also added a mystery guest, and I'm sure a lot of you on the call will be able to relate to this, but I'm working from home, just like many of you are as well, and we may get interrupted with some background noise, the background noise being pets or family members. So that's why I've kind of put that there as a prompt. So just to give you an overview of the agenda today, first of all, we'll be covering off what XMA's workspace solutions are. And then we have a slide where we're kind of helping customers, as well as the strategy that we're putting together for our workspace solutions, helping customers navigate through the new normal. And then we'll move on to the actual content of the webinar, which is business continuity planning, part one, bringing the workspace home. We'll be looking at the challenge, the solution, and we'll have a few minutes towards the end for questions and answers. But if you do have any questions and answers as we move through this presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we go along. If we don't get time to answer them at the end of the session, we'll certainly come back to you individually with the answers. So just to give you an overview of what XMA's workspace solutions kind of cover, our job really is to help organizations remove the complexity that's associated with traditional end user computing. We try and help simplify things. We're one of very few partners in the UK that work across all three major OS platforms, so Apple, Google, and Microsoft. But we also have quite a large network of complementary partners that we work with that sit across all of those platforms, and kind of we bring that together in this sort of quadrant. We've broken it down into 4 key areas. So the first area is deployment management. So that's kind of everything from EUC infrastructure management, legacy app containerization, transforming your legacy management. So if you're using SCCM, for example, and you need to look at moving to modern management, we can support you with that. And then we focus quite a bit on security and control, which is all around the user access and application security and data. We then move on to productivity and collaboration. So whether that's virtual apps and desktops, SaaS apps, robotic process automation. And then kind of once we have all that, we're able to help our customers gain insights into productivity, utilization, and monitoring and event management. But what we find is it doesn't always work this way. Customers are various different journeys, and some customers retrospectively work their way back. So you might start with productivity, for example, and then later on you might want to have a look at the security posture and side of things. So with that in mind, kind of what we've done, we all know we're going through a new normal. We're trying to look at how we can rearrange the strategy that XMA go to market with and help our customers with during workshops, and kind of what that would look like through what we're going through at the moment. So we put this together at a high level. The first part, obviously part 1 is today, is preparing for business continuity. And I think once customers have done that, the next piece they'll be looking at is how they can develop a digital capability. So that might be cloud applications like Office 365 or G Suite have been deployed in certain pockets of an organization. And now we're kind of being forced to deploy that to pretty much everyone across the organization. So there's areas around that we'll be covering on subsequent webinars. And kind of once that's done, we'll be looking at the security aspect of it, and making sure that the security controls that are put in place don't hinder productivity, and it's kind of striking the balance between the two. The final bit is not really a webinar. We might do a webinar. We'll see what the feedback is from our customers on the webinars that we're kind of doing at the moment. But this bit is kind of when we all have the go ahead to continue life as usual and get back into those physical offices that we work in all the time or occasionally. Some customers might question, well, actually, I have a large physical estate. Is it really required now? I've mobilized my workforce. Can I save money by reducing the estate? And if I do that, how do I maximize the use of that estate? And at XMA, we work with customers quite closely. Up until recently, we did, that is, on how they can better utilize their physical estate. So with that being said, we'll focus on the first part, which is preparing for business continuity. And I'll pass over to Linnea from EEC to help us through this.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, so for those of you who probably aren't familiar with the EEC as an organization, we're a strategic partner with XMA, and we're a professional services organization. Within the Workspace services team that I'm part of, we have a staff of certified consultants that work day in and day out with virtualization solutions to perform digital global transformation programs and business continuity solutions that both embrace cloud and on-premise solutions. We also have a cloud team that's focused on cloud services such as Ezzor and traditional Microsoft on-premise solutions. They hold Microsoft core competence in areas such as cloud productivity and cloud platform. And then also that we have a managed services team out of Milton Keynes, but obviously for now they're working remotely. With COVID-19, the business continuity and remote working has been brought to the forefront of everyone's minds. Companies that hadn't put in place solutions are finding themselves scrambling or leaving employees with no ability to complete their work. For companies like our customers, however, they've already adopted these solutions largely, such as the ones I'm going to talk about, and they could have created a modern workplace and enabled their users to successfully maintain productivity and keep security of their resources. I think it's easy for, if you go back, Terry, sorry. Yeah, so I think it's easy. I'm somebody who always works from home, although typically I'm not working with my husband at home as well as my young daughter. But for users that don't work remotely, it's easy to forget that adopting solutions, even if it's something that we think is as simple as a VPN, can be quite complicated for the users with varying abilities. Couple this with, as an IT professional, you have to decide to support or allow personal devices or have to introduce a lot of laptop devices, which is, IT has a heavy burden at this point. As an admin, it's always difficult to maintain usability and the balance between usability and security. It's clear as of now that cyber criminals are aware of this and are more vigilant than ever. If you look to deploy a VPN solution, there's complexities in introducing this, there's complexity in the fact that you have to provide only, or you want to provide only that access that the users require. So you're either faced with a complex solution to implement or security is compromised. Additionally, when users are working with a VPN, their applications and resources aren't likely optimized to work in this way, and the users themselves might have limited bandwidth or network drops that cause a loss in productivity and user frustration. So the solutions I'm going to talk about today, they provide a familiar workspace to the users and allow organizations to maintain security with little effort and little focus towards what the actual end user device is. There's a lot of ways that you can successfully develop a business continuity solution. So today I'm going to focus on two different solutions. The first one is what I'll call an express solution. So as this part, it's geared to get users up and running in a familiar workplace without having to invest a lot in infrastructure. The second solution is more geared towards what I'll call the premium solution, but it's geared towards truly augmenting how the users work and creating a modern workplace that has a plethora of benefits beyond just business continuity. You'll notice that in both of these solutions, it's using Citrix Cloud. So you go to the next slide, Terry. Yeah. For those of you who aren't familiar with Citrix, it's been the forefront of virtualization computing for the past 20 years. And as you'd expect, has evolved and continues to evolve to excel at meeting the challenges that I talked about earlier and delivering an optimized user experience. So some of the benefits we see our customers attain with adopting Citrix as a solution is it's VPN-less remote access. So in this instance, what we're talking about is the gateway services running in Citrix Cloud, which acts as an ICA proxy to the user's virtualized apps and desktops. The traffic itself is encapsulated in SSL tunnels, so it's secure, and there's end-to-end encryption that's provided. Citrix has an array of policies that provide granular control. So you can do things like restrict copy and paste or drives and print mapping that allows you to ensure that the data isn't going to be compromised by allowing the user to work remotely. Additionally, it has functionalities such as watermarking, which imprints the username or component markings or whatever basically you choose within the session, which discourages screen clipping. I think it's common with organizations that when they go to look at a business continuity solution or allowing users to work remotely, they find that just using a username and password isn't sufficient, and that because passwords can easily be compromised. Although Citrix itself supports a variety of identity providers, it also has its own one-time password token generation solution, which is called Citrix SSO, that can be easily implemented within the solution so that you don't have to invest a lot in developing multi-factor authentication as part of your business continuity solution. Beyond the security features, Citrix is optimized to work in adverse network conditions. At its core is the HDX protocol, which is relying on the ICA protocol or independent computing architecture, and has three pillars: intelligent redirection, which offloads what should is able to the device; adaptive compression, which takes in variables like input device or the type of input device and display and chooses the optimal compression codecs for the situation, and data duplication, which seeks to limit the bandwidth requirements. All of these together provide a superior user experience, even when there's limited network conditions or demanding applications. Another focus towards some of the benefits with using Citrix is that it has minimum requirements for the end device. So all you need to be able to get up and running is a small agent, the Workspace app, which can be deployed through Citrix Cloud. Additionally, if for some reason you can't even get the Citrix Cloud or the Workspace app on the device, you can also use a zero install HTML5 based browser-based client. This allows support for personal devices, whether they be Macs or Windows, or even mobile devices or Linux devices or thin clients without much effort from IT. Another thing to note about Citrix is that it continues to evolve and optimize what it can. So for instance, there has a new feature called the rendezvous protocol, where instead of traditionally connecting through the cloud connectors, once the session is established with the VDA, the connection goes direct via the gateway service to Citrix Cloud. This limits the network hops and optimizes the delivery, as well as taking away the potential bottlenecks that the Citrix Cloud traditionally could have had in place. You go to the next slide. So Citrix has both on-premise solutions and Citrix Cloud. Sorry if you go back. Yeah, so Citrix Cloud itself, it's not just a public cloud. It's actually Citrix is running as a service in the same way that you might think of Microsoft Office 365 managing your email. Citrix provides 99.5% SLAs, and it continues to expand its points of presence or POPs. So these are the hosting facilities it uses within Ezzor and AWS to both deliver the access and the management tiers of Citrix Cloud. By leveraging Citrix Cloud, a lot of the burden that you traditionally would have in implementing a business continuity solution is taken away. You don't have to worry about the data center having capacity, and you also don't have to worry about things like the SQL database. And therefore, you don't have to invest as much in hardware that would just sit idle, typically with a business continuity solution when it's not being used. It also has a lot of flexibility as part of its licensing model. So that I'll talk more about the different adoption or delivery models, but as an example, we have customers that leverage Citrix Cloud's control plane to integrate with our on-premise resources, our on-premise data sources that are in Singapore, London, and New York. So the admins can manage everything from that one location. It also provides functionality so that services like endpoint management or micro apps can be introduced if there's a later need for that, still again from that same management plane and from that same access mechanism for the users. And probably most importantly, it takes away the burden because Citrix updates or continue updates the clouds. This means that new bug fixes are introduced as well as new features. Go to the next slide. Okay, so as I showed earlier, the Express solution that we recommend embraces mobility to the existing devices through the usage of Citrix Cloud towards the benefits I talked about before. And how it does it is basically putting a small agent on the user's existing Office PC or laptop. This has a lot of benefits, like allowing IT to retain security through the usage of Citrix policies. And it allows you to limit access to the environment to only those things that are required. The delivery is optimized through the usage of the HDX protocol, and the users are able to work with a familiar workplace. I think this is important because they're working with their actual end devices. So you know it's configured exactly how they like it, and they have the resources that they're typically used to having. It requires little infrastructure as part of the solution. It just has 2 Citrix Cloud, or we recommend 2 Citrix connectors that need to be placed in the data center. And as data is kept secure, or as data is centralized, it's kept secure. This also has benefits in the fact that if applications need to talk to backend resources, it's not talking across from the user's end device. And as we discussed before, the HDX protocol is optimizing the front end connection. So I see this solution adopted largely because it really does accelerate the ability and the deployment times to deliver desktop virtualization to the users. Okay, the next slide. Although the Express solution is great for simplicity, for organizations that are looking to fully embrace a business continuity solution that decouples the users from their data and their applications and desktops from their data center, this is the typical solution that we recommend. It leverages Citrix virtual apps and desktop servers coupled with Ezzor as a public cloud provider. So within it, Citrix Cloud access the access and control tier, and Ezzor is used for hosting the computing power used to run the user's virtual apps and desktops. Citrix provides great flexibility in its delivery model. This can be from traditional Windows Server multi-session hosts or Windows 10 VDIs, but also through usage of Ezzor, there's functionalities like Windows 10 multi-session hosts that are introduced. And within it, users can be accessing apps or desktops based on what makes sense for that user base. Some find it more simple to work with their traditional desktop because it's what's familiar with it. And in other organizations, they might only have a few applications, so it's easier to just publish those directly to users. It also can cater to whether they need a persistent environment or it's better leveraged to keep the environment pristine, and after the user logs off, it goes to a pristine state, so that you know that you're spending less time in troubleshooting efforts, worrying about the device drift. The solution allows organizations to embrace a cloud-first model. Ezzor is backed by a 99.9% SLA. This can even be higher depending on how it's configured. And typically with traditional data centers being used in a business continuity solution, and if they need multi-site availability, it's a huge capital upfront cost. As the solution hosts the virtual apps and desktops in the cloud, there isn't requirements towards on-premise infrastructure at all. And this shortens the time towards implementation because you don't have to get approval for hardware. The capacity can be simply scaled up using an auto scale functionality, so that machines are powered on based on actual usage by users. This makes it so that you're only really paying for what you're using, and you can adopt an OpEx model. We see that solutions like this are adopted not just for business continuity solutions, but are embraced because of the security functionalities as well as to create a modern workplace for users. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so with this, we've set up 2 packaged offerings based on these 2 different solutions to make it easy for organizations to be able to adopt the one that meets their needs. In both offerings, we've tried to minimize the time spent during design and implementation by using our standardized approaches and best practices and existing knowledge base. We did, however, include some level of support during the user acceptance testing period, as we know that this is critical to make sure that the solution is correct for the users and that there's no big issues once the implementation is completed. The Express solution, again, relies on remote PC based. So this is leveraging the existing user's office devices. And the premium solution is a cloud-only solution. We understand that for some customers, they might already have Ezzor adopted, so we make it as an optional add-on that we can help with the Ezzor portion. It's really important, I think, getting going with Ezzor that you create a well-governed environment and that there's no complexity introduced in adding things like directory services that the solution is relying on for functioning. So I know that probably in some instances, maybe these solutions aren't exactly what you need. And I definitely encourage you, if you're interested in either of these solutions or other business continuity type solutions, to reach out to your XMA account representative.
Terry, did you want me to step in with some of the infrastructure options at this point?
Yes, please, Jen, yeah.
Cool. So, hi everybody. This is a bit weird talking to myself here in my dining room, as opposed to talking to a room full of people. But we thought it was important to mention some of the infrastructure options that are also available, because we know we have customers and we know there are organizations out there that are really comfortable with cloud. They use cloud already, and I'm not just talking about the odd bit of SaaS here or there for HR, finance, and on an application by application basis. We do have customers and we know there are organizations out there that are using public cloud for infrastructure services, but we also know that we do have customers and we do know there are organizations out there that don't have infrastructure running in public cloud, and they have really good reasons for that, and they have really good reasons for maintaining an on-prem infrastructure. So for the customers that need something on-prem and have reasons for needing on-prem infrastructure, and those reasons don't have to be policy, politics, or anything big like that. It might just be, do you know what, we need something now, we don't use cloud today, we don't know cloud, I've got on-prem, I've got a data center, I'm comfortable with on-prem, and this is what I know, and I need something that I can put in today that I know is going to work, that I know I can support, and this is what I know, and I don't have time to experiment. So for those customers, we've been working on 2 options on solutions, and both of those are founded on hyper-converged infrastructure technologies. And we've chosen this approach because you can start small and you can scale as you need to. And once you start figuring out how much the services are being used in this current situation, then we can scale as we need to. So the 2 solutions we've been working on are the disaggregated hyperconverged infrastructure based on Nimble from HPE, and that starts at a 2-node cluster, and obviously you just scale as you need to. And then we've also been working on a small 3-node hyperconverged cluster solution from Nutanix, which starts at 3 nodes, supports about 100 users from a VDI perspective, but again, you can scale that as you need to. The other thing that we've been working on along with those is what we're sort of affectionately terming Corona-friendly installations. So working on how we can get this stuff into the data center, if that's what you need, how we can do that in a safe manner for both yourselves as our customers and for our staff as well. So we've been looking at pre-prepped solutions and pre-prepped templates. We've been looking at single person deployments. We've been looking at what we can do remotely and what we can't do remotely. All of the discoveries and planning would be done by video call. We'd be looking for the customer yourselves and organizations to provide access only and not necessarily chaperone or shadow, just for, again, for safety reasons, whereas normally we'd be working as one big team. So we've been looking at what we can do safely to make sure that where you do need infrastructure on-prem, that we can deliver that as safely as we can. So that's what we've been working on from the infrastructure side, and I'll hand back over to Terry now.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you, Linnea. So it looks like we left quite a bit of time for questions and answers. There's a couple of questions that will come, some customers that we work closely with, so we'll come back to you separately, privately on some of the questions that you have. If you have any more, please feel free to send them through the chat window. And kind of while we're doing that, we'll just we'll share with you the forthcoming agenda. So this kind of explains it a little bit better than I tried to do earlier, but we've broken it down to 3 key topics that you can see on the left-hand side, and then the actual parts 1 and part 2 of each of those segments are listed within there. So today we talked about enabling your desk-bound workers secure and safe access to their devices that are located within the office, or you might be looking at virtualizing your apps and desktops. You might not want to do it all in the cloud. You might be looking at some infrastructure elements too, so we can support you with all of that. The slide that you saw previously showed that XMA's store is open for business, so any requirements that you have on that side, it's pretty much business as usual. So your account managers will be more than happy to help you on that side. Next week we are doing another copy of this webinar for additional customers, some of the customers that couldn't make it today. So if you would like to join again, you're more than welcome to do so. If you have other colleagues within your organization or other people within your network that you think might benefit, it would be great if you could have them join as well. The webinar on the 16th, we're talking about providing secure access to internal apps. So as an organization, you might already have 1 or 2 apps. You might be looking for an alternative to VPN. So we'll be discussing the software-defined perimeter. And then kind of moving on from that is the developing that digital capability. So the first part is fast tracking your cloud first agenda. We'll talk about how we can help you obtain insights into how SaaS apps, either Office 365 or G Suite, are being used across your organization. We can help you identify which departments are doing well and which departments aren't doing well. And at a time like kind of where we are, everyone needs a sense of belonging. So what we can do is help you understand the teams that might be struggling. We can help you create a remote training plan to bring those users up to speed, so you're enhancing your digital capability. And then kind of following on from that, it's taking collaboration to the next level. And we're looking at social internet and other ways of just bringing that sense of belonging together. And then the final bits is the security focus. So we're looking at how we can help you manage cyber risks. I'd like to share at the end of that, I can't promise it yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be fine to share with you a cybersecurity checklist for free. And then kind of the subsequent and the final one after that is how we can help you protect the attack surface. So whether you have lots of web applications that are being used and you want to limit people using in your organization using unsanctioned applications, you want to protect that data and get a full picture on kind of where that data has gone, when it shouldn't have gone somewhere. We can we'll be talking about those kind of topics during those webinars. As time goes on, our website will be updating with all the webinars with more details of the panelists. And just to remind you, we're here to help you. We have a phone number on the screen there and our email address. You also have your account managers. Most of you on the call, I know I managed accounts. For those that aren't, please feel free to use these contact details. And as I can't see any more questions, are the ones that I mentioned before, I think now would be probably a good time to close this webinar and thank you all once again for joining us. I understand it's we're all in unknown territory, and really appreciate everyone taking out the time to join us. Hope you found what we've talked about of interest. I hope to see you on forthcoming webinars, and yeah, thank you very much. Take care.